Hello and welcome back, everyone. We're going to be looking at the first lesson in Chapter 4 today. And Chapter 4 deals with posting to a general ledger. So the first section of Chapter 4 deals with using accounts and preparing and maintaining a chart of accounts. And you will notice that we start to refer to a chart of accounts quite frequently. There are 4 objectives here. The first one would be to construct a chart of accounts for a service business called a proprietorship, and we learned what a proprietorship was back in Chapter 1. To demonstrate correct principles for numbering accounts, to apply file maintenance principles to update a chart of accounts, and then complete the steps necessary to open general ledger accounts. So let's go ahead and look at the first item here. First of all, an account form. What is an account form? I think it's important that we look back and remember that we've already talked about recording transactions in the general journal, and we basically learned we need to put those into our journal in chronological or date order. Well, the point of having a general ledger is so that we can easily maintain an account balance for each account, because previously when we were posting transactions, we weren't able to keep a record of the balance in each account. So we just want to make sure that we're able to keep that running balance total. Now, the account form is used to summarize in one place all of the changes to a single account, and that we would use a separate form for each account. So the sample of the blank account form is showing up for you right there on the page. Now, we want to at least think about the relationship of a T account to an account form. So information that we need to trace the entry back to the journal page is what goes on the top where we look at the account. The T account information then is the debit and credit side of the transaction. And this should feel very familiar to what we've been doing previously. Then we have added a second set of columns when we're looking at this account form, where we now have balance information for the particular account we're looking at. Before we just had debit and credit entries, now we have the debit and credit balance. Okay, so as we look at our first learning objective here, constructing a chart of accounts for a business, what I can see here on my chart of accounts is that they are listed by their categories within the ledger, and they also have numbers assigned to them. So let's make sure we can touch base on some vocabulary here. A group of accounts is called a ledger. A ledger that contains all accounts needed to prepare the financial statements for a business is called the general ledger. And the name given to any account is known as the account title. The number that we assign then to an account is called the account number. And there is a very specific way that we go ahead and assign account numbers. First of all, the very first digit of the number looks at or tells us the general ledger division for that account. And then the second is a location indicator. So when we look at supplies, the 1 indicates it's in the asset, and the 50 is its location within the general ledger. All of the asset accounts are listed as 100, so they all begin with the number 1. You'll notice the liability accounts all begin with the number 2. Owner's equity begins with the number 3. This is so that we can stay organized in our accounting for our business. So the procedure for arranging all of the accounts in the general ledger, for assigning the account numbers, and keeping all of the records current is called file maintenance. Assigning account numbers, then, when you're looking at how we are creating those numbers, what you'll see is that the expense category is 500, and that we have listed the miscellaneous expenses in 560 and the supplies expense in 570. If we need to create a new account, we have 9 account numbers between miscellaneous and supplies where we can assign a new account. We can assign a 565, and there was room between the 2 existing accounts, and we don't have to go ahead and renumber all of our accounts. So it is important that we want to make sure we can list our accounts with new account numbers where they belong. Now, it is important to remember that expense accounts would be listed in alphabetical order, and that asset accounts are listed in the order of their liquidity. And liquidity is a concept of how easily can we convert something to cash without losing value. We can see then our water expense would be a new account, and we would create the 580 for that one. So when we're opening an account in a general ledger, you want to make sure that you're prepared to do 2 steps. Write the account title and the account number on the heading, and that is what it takes to open a new account. So as we go ahead and we look at a general ledger page, and you can see it looks like we're going to open the cash account. So we write cash on the account title line, and the account number is 110. So you see cash there, you see the account number 110, and we're done. So you want to make sure that you can describe the 2 parts of the account number, what comes first, and why we use that system, and then what comes second, and why we leave the space between the account numbers. And you need to make sure that you can list the 2 steps for opening an account in that general ledger. That's it for lesson 4-1. You can go ahead then and do the work together and on your own activities in Aplia after you complete the form questions on the class website. Thanks for listening.